How is everybody?
Good lunch?
Doesn't sound like it. How is everybody? There we go. So it is a real distinct privilege to have the opportunity to have this fireside chat with Christian Van Der Henst, a real pioneer in a topic that is near and dear to my heart, which is education and how do we leverage technology to improve education. And Christian, I wanted to start by asking you how it feels. I mean, what inspired you to create the leading platform for education for the Spanish-speaking world? Over 1,000 courses, working with 1,100 companies, 3 million students. That's gotta feel good. And I'm wondering, what inspired you?
No, thank you for that. First of all, I love the question, and I love that you're asking me here this in Guatemala, because at the end, it has to do a lot with how I was educated here in Guatemala. I wanted some sort of education that didn't exist back then. And I was lucky enough to be born in this country where it's a small country and it's full of great people, and we are inspired to think big from the beginning. And it really feels good that it's working. It really feels good that it's a company that it's admired by a lot of students. And I also want to thank this event, the Volcano Summit. We met here. I was a guest. I was a guest thanks to a lot of friends from Mexico to Antigua. So it was kind of like an interesting path. It was like friends from Mexico telling me like, this is happening in Antigua, you should go. Then arriving here, meeting you, and then understanding like, this is working, this is growing. How can we actually make something bigger and larger for Guatemala? So not only I'm proud, but I'm also in the possibility right now to give back, and to give back to the source of my education, which is Guatemala.
Well, you're certainly having an impact, I would say, all around Latin America, and we're very happy to now have that impact come to Guatemala. And as you said, it's all part of, or a byproduct of Volcano Summit. We met here a couple of years ago. It started as an idea. It started, as a little conversation in one of these hallways. And I'm so happy that it came to fruition, and those kind of joint ideas and joint aspirations for what could happen in Guatemala are coming to fruition. And we're now in a position where we're issuing about 1,000 of these scholarships every single week in this country. And one of the things we're going to want to ask of you is how to get more students to take advantage of the Platzi platform and these scholarships that we're providing. But tell us a little bit about that journey, because you had to go out of Guatemala to now come back to Guatemala. And I would love for you to be able to share with our friends here today how you had to go outside the country to really be an entrepreneur at the scale that you've gotten to, and how part of your vision and part of your passion has been to bring that impact back home.
Every time that I introduce myself at an event internationally, I always make this joke. I tell people that, as you can tell by my last name, I was born and raised in Guatemala. And I really like to start a conversation going that, because I feel like Guatemala is actually a big melting pot, more than what we believe in. And it all started with an idea of creating communities for web developers to learn how to code. And I did that here. I created some associations here of web developers, and I started connecting the dots. I really like to connect people, and I really like people to build tools together. And luckily enough, a lot of those communities reacted. The first users that we had in our platform were from all over the world who were speaking Spanish. And I was running that project from here. It's interesting because a lot of people now are promoting both remote work, digital nomadism. Let's go to Antigua, let's go to the lake, let's work from there. And that has been possible for a while. And I'm a great example from that. I'm running the business right now from Guatemala, from Antigua, and I think that's super powerful. And that's the biggest thing that I want to bring into this event and with the scholarships. I want more Guatemalans to learn tech so they can work globally, or they can empower the next generation of companies from Guatemala. And I hope that those companies are global as well. I really want to see big logos in the world that have a small Guatemalan flag in the corner, so someone will ask, like, what's the story? How did this started? So I believe that that's how it started. Platzi started in 2014 with my co-founder, Freddy Vega, from Colombia. We were competitors. We were the typical Latino friends who were competing, and it's like bragging which country is better, which country has more drama. That's how our relationship actually started. It was pretty easy to win to a Colombian back then. Now it's getting harder. Now it's getting harder. Colombians are actually doing amazing things, and they're such a big example for the Latin American ecosystem. Mexicans, Colombians, Argentinians. I'm really inspired and working with a bunch of them. My team has also that culture. We started building a platform so anyone, anywhere in the world was able to learn. And the big aha moment came in Mexico City. I made a big event, and 100 people show up to learn. Back then, it was HTML5, which was like the new trendy thing. And everyone wanted to learn that. And I was in the halls networking like we're doing here, and I started hearing all these different accents. And as a Guatemalan, we kind of learned that there's one kind of Mexican, but then I learned that there's actually so many kinds of Mexicans, and that's great. They're really diverse as a country. And I remember that day, I heard all these accents, and I asked, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Hermosillo. I'm from Guadalajara. I'm from Chiapas. I'm from like, oh, great. So then I asked, who here flew or took a bus to be at this event? 90% of the... So then I said, a Colombian and a Guatemalan are teaching how to code in Mexico City to a bunch of people who took a flight to come here. It's like, this is crazy. What if I do it online? Yeah. Would you pay the same? No. So I have to start thinking about pricing point and how to manage it. And that's how the business started. So the whole inspiration for Platzi was I was a teacher, and I wanted to empower communities of web developers by teaching them how to code. And that's still what we do best.
That is really inspiring story of a teacher that evolves and is able to really share that gift of teaching and that knowledge with so many others at such an important scale in terms of students, in terms of impact. And certainly for most of the people here, you were talking about skills in technology, how to learn development, how to learn coding, databases, and whatnot. And I would ask the audience here, who's had a challenge hiring folks with the right amount of skills or the right skill set and knowledge in, say, coding or web development or database administration, right? I think everybody. So there's a real
English,
need.
or just
or even English. Exactly, even English. I think that absolutely. It's become such a crucial skill. And again, we're speaking English here in Antigua, so absolutely it's a crucial skill. So let me put some numbers on it, right? Because we've launched this program. We're ambitiously trying to cover or to provide 50,000 scholarships to students in Guatemala, students that want to improve their ability to speak English, their ability to code, or even to do things like marketing and so many others skills that Platzi teaches so incredibly well. So let me tell you this. We've now had the students that have already received the benefit of these classes on Platzi in Guatemala. Over 12,000 courses have been taken through the platform so far. 40,000 hours have been spent on the Platzi platform so far. And I think that that is worth celebrating. I think that that is really, really commendable.
People are studying. People are doing the homework. I actually want to meet this student called Byron. He did 150 courses since we gave away the scholarships. Like, I want to know who he is. I want to hire the guy. It's like, I told my team, let's get him into touch. He's in Guatemala. I need to talk to him. I hope he's not sharing the password with, it's a scholarship, so I hope he's not sharing the password with all his friends and family, you know? And if he is, I still want to meet him. I don't know. But the most important thing is, I really want this scholarship to reach the right people. And I know that a lot of people here in the audience work with organizations, and you might think like, okay, how can I help? Like, well, maybe there's a type of employee at your organization who could have this scholarship as something that can expand their career. Or maybe you talk to schools, or you talk to certain universities that could be help. And I can probably extend both the scholarships and the time. Thanks to the help of FUNCEPA, now we have bigger reach and more organizations are helping. But I really want this to be a big program. Luckily for the project, we already have other agreements in other countries. But this it touched the heart so hard to be here and to do this for Guatemalans. And I really want to thank not only you, but the event. I want to thank Volcano Summit made this happen. Like this is how it works. So thank you for making this happen. Thank you.
No, it really is inspiring to see so many students that have really taken advantage of the platform. And that's really the one requirement that we're asking of folks is, if you're going to take one of these scholarships, use it, make the best use of it, and hopefully leverage it, learn, and may it hopefully have an impact in your ability to then go out to the world, get a better paying job, or to get a job if you don't have a job. And those are the kinds of stories that we're seeing. Christian already mentioned one, but we're seeing so many others. Alexander took 40 courses already, and he's, because of it, landed an internship to do software development, right? That's precisely what we're looking for. Carla Cordon, who now has had 47 courses in English, and now she's able to get a job because she was basically outside of the labor force precisely because she didn't speak English. Axel Tunches, 65 courses, now a software analyst. So many transformational stories, folks that have just taken advantage of the opportunity. And I would say that really is the one requirement, and the one thing we're going to ask of you is to help us connect with more of those kinds of folks that are interested in learning, that are interested in really leveraging those opportunities and having access to a better life, better career, better job opportunities through knowledge. And that's what this enables, right? Knowledge enables to unlock that key, to unlock that door, to be able to access tremendously valuable opportunities here and worldwide. Because also one of the things with technologies, as you know, is these have become jobs that, these working nomads can access anywhere in the world. So it has been a really rewarding experience to work with Christian and his team at Platzi, who are so incredibly committed to the concept of bringing this knowledge to so many people out there. And I would want to ask you, Christian, how do you guys look at the impact that you're having? Is there a way that you are evaluating the impact you're having around the world? And if so, how are you doing it?
I wanted to mention something that is key here. We mentioned that we met a few years ago, but this program was actually launched a few months ago. So these numbers are great already, and the program is very young. So there's actually a big demand and a lot of opportunities to just bring more education into a country like Guatemala. And second, I'm already using those numbers and the example as a great success story to go to other markets. I particularly want to work most with Central America. I am a big believer that we are very similar and all the same, and it might be hard when there's the challenging to go to the World Cup, and then we start fighting with each other, because Mexico and the U.S. will take some slots and whatever. But other than soccer, I feel like Central America should work together. So I really want to expand the scholarship program here. I also want to do this in other markets. Right now, one market that I'm particularly interested is the Latin Americans abroad in Spain. That was an interesting challenge. We just started realizing that a lot of people look at opportunities, they immigrate to other markets. Same thing happens in the US, and they're not going for the tech-enabled jobs. And I feel like that's the superpower. If you really want to try new opportunities, do it as a web developer, do it as a software developer, do it as a it doesn't really have to be coding. It can be marketing. It could be data analysis. It could be just, there's great writers who can just build documentation and marketing for other big companies. So I feel like that's where we're going, and any help to reach into other organizations. I'm pretty sure that you're actually going to help me with a bunch of other organizations. But I wanted to plant the seed today. If anyone really feels like we should give back and create and grow this industry, I believe that people who work in technology, we're not really, we're very open to opening this market because it's not a zero-sum game. If more people learn tech tools, they're not taking our jobs. They're not making our lives harder. Quite the opposite. They're just expanding a market that it's already transforming the world and the economy.
So true, so true. And speaking of the impact on the region, I think one of the obviously topics, certainly on the political front and the policy front nowadays, is this topic of irregular migration up north, right? And we are currently, the number is something like 400,000 kids are becoming adults every single year in a country like Guatemala, but we're generating a number close to 21,000, 25,000 formal sector jobs per year. So the gap between the actual jobs created and the jobs required is really dramatic. And then we ask the question, well, why are people migrating up north, right? I mean, I think the answer is kind of obvious, but I think there's a real potential for a solution through the tools and the knowledge that you're sharing with all of the people in this region, and I would say throughout the region of Central America, like you said, not just Guatemala. But what do you feel about that, and how do you think about that issue?
It actually hits a nerve because I believe that we are all connected also in the Central American region with people who had to experience those harsh decisions of leaving your country with little money and little opportunities. And I feel like we can probably, I don't think our generation is going to be the one that's going to fix this problem, but at least we can make life easier for all those generations to come. I actually love to talk about this, and in several forums in the US mostly, people ask me. It's like it's common. It's like, oh, Guatemala, what's your story? How were you able to come here? And I was one of the ones who was prepared to do it. And there's a lot of ways to end up in other countries and get those opportunities. But the stories of the ones who struggle are fascinating, and they're just such big hustlers. So I usually try to connect them with the entrepreneurship guides. I tell them how build a business, stop struggling for the fact of finding a good paying job, build it yourself. And you already risk your life, your family. You are such a hustler already, so maybe that's the path. And with technologies, I feel like sometimes it's very easy. Now with all the influencer economy, I'm seeing a new generation that they're just very good at creating content. I'm becoming an old guy who now doesn't understand TikTok, and I'm seeing all these big new young generation just making a career out of TikTok. And I was like, we need to teach that. And we need to put that on schools, and we need to put that into all these families. And I believe that nowadays, parents won't feel bad anymore for their kids spending a lot of their time in their computer. I was the generation who my parents were weirdly worried. They were like, "You spend too much time coding. I don't know if this is going to be good for you." And then, and now there's so many case stories that actually show that intellectual curiosity can create great leaders, great workers, and just a better environment.
No, absolutely. And it really does strike a nerve to listen to these heart-wrenching stories, the risks that entire families are taking to try to migrate up north when they could potentially have those same job opportunities here locally. So I really think that there's a huge transformational effect and a transformational impact that we can have by providing them with the right skills at the right time, so that they can start using those that knowledge set immediately and be placed in opportunities, job opportunities that will give them a better than minimum wage, I'll say, salary as well. So how do you see the process once we get them a job? So they've gotten a first couple of certifications, they've gotten a set of knowledge initially, but you're working with companies directly as well. So can you talk a little bit about the process of that ongoing learning? Because I think different from maybe 20, 30 years ago, you got your engineering degree and you had your knowledge for life. I think there's something more there, and things have changed.
There's still a chip that we need to change, and is the fact that continuous education is a thing now. And particularly when you are not working in the tech environment, you probably try to do your education one and try to be set up for life. And I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. Companies will require you to reinvent yourself, and it doesn't have to be a drastic reinvention. You don't need to go from farming or agronomy to being a lawyer or technology, but I feel like you start connecting the dots. And the way I see it, I really love to learn the story of people through their LinkedIn profiles and see their career paths. And now we're getting better at showcasing that. But I feel like in the future, you're gonna be a lot of badges. There's gonna be a badge for some of the courses that you did at Platzi. There's gonna be some badges for some of the content that you saw on YouTube. There's gonna be a badge for the networking that you did at Volcano. And that's how you're actually gonna describe yourself. So I truly believe that knowledge, it's not anymore a 4 or 5 year degree. If you can do that, it's a great experience, and universities have created a great model for it, but it's just not enough for the amount of people in the market. So if we create small content and more courses, those badges will define who you are. And you won't have to name yourself for just one skill, but for many skills. I'm gonna be a teacher and a YouTuber and a TikToker and a networker and an entrepreneur and a Guatemalan, and all of that will help you in your career. So I feel like that's how we're doing, and I want to bring that also to companies. To close the thought, I believe that companies can help by empowering their employees to start learning. More than perks of giving people education, I want companies to give people some paid hours to study. As simple as that. It was like, hey, you have an hour a day, we pay you for that hour, and you have to study. And you can be curious. It doesn't have to be connected with what you do. If it's connected, maybe it will help you in your career internally. But we need to be open about that. And luckily, I see industry leaders more open to that. We're not worrying anymore of people learning and growing faster because they're going to stay because they're going to leave our companies. There's this great phrase that it's, if you don't educate your team, the problem is that they're actually going to stay in your company without learning, without growing, and that's more complicated.
That's a great way to rephrase the problem, I guess. The So what's next for Platzi? I mean, what are you currently seeing out there in the environment? You've clearly been a trailblazer in online education. What's next?
It is easy to describe Platzi as an education community or as a school, but the truth is we want to empower Latin America. That's what we do. We really want to be part of the engine of growth for the region. That's why we help startups, that's why we help entrepreneurs, we help students, we help companies. We just want the pie of tech in Latin America to be bigger, and that's what we're aiming for. We closed our Series B during the pandemic, which was a very challenging year for startups and for Latin America in general. And we're going to deploy that capital into creating better content, growing the community. And I feel like this is the year where we're going to start partnering big with corporations to make these the badges that I taught larger. And most importantly, it's also a stage in the company where I'm welcoming amazing people to my team, and I'm finally learning to lead a great team of executives and of tech talent who is creating this company. So I'm happy and I'm learning. The best part of all is I'm still a student, and we discussed that early today. You can see us here with our titles and in these conferences, but at the end, we're students. Every day we get a new challenge, and it's through community that you learn and you step forward for the future.
We're definitely still students. We're definitely still learning. And one of the concepts we were talking about earlier was being ignorant, and how ignorance is a bliss in many respects, and being able to go into certain challenging situations precisely because you have a clean slate. You can put some nice Platzi content and education on top of it, but the fact that going into these spaces that have not been explored before, and I was sharing with you, for better or worse, nobody taught me how to do, for example, nonprofits. Nobody taught me, oh, this is how you need to deal with, providing kids with access to technology and education in Guatemala. And, I don't know if we've done it well or not. I'd like to think we've done a good job. Jessica's here. All the credits to her, all the blames to me. But that's, I think, a beautiful thing, being able to innovate, to be able to go forward, even if we don't have all of the knowledge and all of the experience, I would say. And fortunately, now we have platforms like Platzi to provide us with those tools and skills.
Oh, thank you, and thank you, Wate, for all the support. Let's make this bigger. And if you're not from here, help me do this somewhere else. Thank you very much.
Eso.